Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio, 250-plus markets across the United States of America, from New York to L.A. and everything in between. Plus, Sirius XM, Channel 80. The number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Lots to get into as it pertains to the NFL draft approaching. Our very own Todd McShay will be on with us in hour number 2 to talk to us about some of the things percolating in the world of sports as it pertains to the NFL draft. The Jets and the Giants at the 3 and number 2 pick, respectively. The Cleveland Browns with the 1st and 4th overall pick. Denver's in the mix. Who knows what they're going to do in terms of what kind of quarterback they're going to take. Whole bunch of stuff to think about, whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and we most certainly will. Right here today on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let me tell y'all something. I sat up here and I watched a couple of things. Number one, let me say this, okay? I will get into Giancarlo Stanton a little bit later. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to tell you right now, I know, listen, I got basketball on my mind, I got football on my mind, but I just got to get this off my chest before we even start anywhere. I am proud and happy to have Giancarlo Stanton on the New York Yankees. A monster, 59 home runs last season, National League MVP. I get all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, just as an aside before I even get on the way with my show, you can't strike out 5 times. I'm not even getting into the fact that it's a home opener. It's the first time in those great Yankee pinstripes with the 27 World Series championship, the greatest franchise in sports the greatest franchise in the history of sports. I'm not even getting into any of that. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't strike out 5 times in the same day. You just can't do it. I understand it's baseball. I understand some things happen. I understand having a bad day going 0 for 5. That's not a big deal. I understand you're batting .211 right now. It's not a big deal. I get all of that. You can't strike out 5 times in the same day. That's just not good. That's just not good. So I just want to get that off my chest before I get on with some real news that's going on, because I got a couple of things on my mind involving the Los Angeles Rams. I got a couple of things on my mind involving the Cavs and the Raptors last night, the Raptors and the Celtics tonight. I got a few things on my mind. But I just wanted to get that off my chest so I didn't allow it to linger and cause me stress. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew you can't strike out 5 times in the same damn day. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. Period. Not 5 times. Step a little bit closer into the plate, Giancarlo Stanton. Stop staying so far away from the plate. Get up on the plate a little bit more like Barry Bonds used to do so you can hit every damn thing. Instead of them throwing it low and outside or forcing you to chase balls where you're striking out 163 times like you did last year. Please stop it. Now that I've gotten that off my chest and I'm able to revisit more pertinent matters, let me say this. The NFL draft is really, really starting to interest me even more so. And even though it's not about the draft right now because of what the Los Angeles Rams are doing, it's just got me paying rabid attention to what's transpiring. The New England Patriots trade Brandon Cooks. The Los Angeles Rams have Brandon Cooks on their squad. Now they got Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and Ndamukong Suh to go with Brandon Cooks, to add him to Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. Let me tell you something right now. Philadelphia Eagles may be the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. But unless you're assuming there's a significant upgrade from Nick Foles to Carson Wentz, based on the Nick Foles that you saw for those 3 playoff games, I got news for you. A legitimate argument can be made that the Los Angeles Rams should be the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know what the hell is going on right now, and I don't know how comfortable to feel about it, because Sean McVay is 32 years old. The man that's the head coach for the Los Angeles Rams just turned 32 years old in January. I mean, he's a puppy. Wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac. He can coach now. And he deserves credit for the year that he had last year. But when you got a coach this young, you would think you're not just going for it all like they appear to be doing right now at this particular juncture, this particular moment in time. And I'm not necessarily knocking them for it. I'm simply making the point that if indeed you are the Los Angeles Rams franchise, I would sit up there and ask a very, very simple question. The kind of players that you're going with and the kind of players you're after, I got love for Aqib Talib. Marcus Peters may be a headache, but damn it, he can ball, get over it. And then Ndamukong Suh can be a stud, particularly when you put him on a line with Brockers and Aaron Donald, and I get all of that. But if it goes south for any reason, where are you at then? These are the kind of questions I've got about the Rams right now. And when I look at it and I scour the NFC, and I'm thinking about the Eagles, and I'm thinking about the Cowboys, who can't be ignored because I think their struggles last year was a byproduct of Ezekiel Elliott going down for 6 games because of his suspension. When I think about the return of Aaron Rodgers, when I think about how Cam Newton can't be counted out, when I think about Matt Ryan and his imminent contract extension and how Arthur Blank, the owner for the Falcons, is telling us there's nothing to worry about in that regard and everything is going to be just fine, so you expected him to be there. When I think about all of those things, it says to me, Giants got to do something. The Giants have to hit a home run with this upcoming NFL draft. They cannot relent. They cannot waver. They cannot struggle with this. They got to pick the right dude. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to admit to you, I'm at a point right now where I'm wondering, what the hell are they going to do? Because weeks ago, I heard so much about Saquon Barkley. I'm like, this dude is can't miss. It's going to help Eli Manning. You're not going to sit up there and bench Eli Manning. He's your quarterback for the next 2 years. You better get something to help him. But then I say to myself, if Saquon Barkley only carried the ball 20 plus times in 3 games last season, and he's not someone whose durability you can rely upon, he's not somebody you can give the ball to 20, 25 times a game, then why spend the number 2 pick on him? I mean, it's getting very, very interesting. On one hand, we got Donald, that's expected to be taken number 1 overall by Cleveland. But then again, if Saquon Barkley's the best, what are you going to do with that if you're Cleveland? And if you pass on Donald, if you're the Cleveland Browns, if you're the Giants, do you have to take Donald knowing that you have Eli? And if you're the New York Jets, you've heard so many great things. Or you know so many great things about Baker Mayfield, a reigning Heisman Trophy winner. You've heard all of this. You know what he brings to the table. 83 touchdowns and just 14 interceptions over the last 2 seasons. But where it gets incredibly, incredibly interesting, and it absolutely positively can't be denied, is simply with this. What if Josh Rosen's the answer? What if he's the guy that you can't pass on? And oh, by the way, how should you feel about passing on him if indeed he's as problematic as Jim Mora came across as portraying him as? Now, in defense of Jim Mora, he may have been doing it to dissuade the Cleveland Browns from picking him because Josh Rosen, according to my sources, would prefer to be in New York. He's Jewish. It's a stronger Jewish community. He'd rather be in the New York market than the Cleveland market, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. But it's some of the things that we've heard. All of this stuff is percolating. Then Todd McShay, who's going to be on the show with us a little bit later on, has his mock draft. You can find that on ESPN.com right now. And he's talking about how Baker Mayfield may get slotted at 6th. Here's my problem with that. Who has the 6th pick? It's the Miami Dolphins. Well, damn it, that's near South Beach. And I'm one of those people who believes that there's a tremendous level of discipline that must be exercised for anybody looking to sit up there and prosper near South Beach. South Beach is temptation, y'all. Let me just put it out there. It's Temptation City. There's a lot going on in South Beach. It takes a special kind of young man to be able to deal with all the temptations that exist in South Beach. You can't just have anybody there. You can't just have a dude that, is accustomed to ingratiating himself with folks, is personable, is a bit eccentric, is talkative and loquacious, doesn't mind talking to the media, spouting off at the mouth. He's going to go on the field. He may ball, but in the same breath, as his star ascends, how will he react to all of that? These are all legitimate questions. New York, the bubble that it is why I would be a concern with that. South Beach, an entirely different scenario. New York is about activity, action, the bright lights of Broadway, the city that never sleeps. South Beach is an entirely different level of temptation. And it's very, very, very important to point that out and to dissect that when you're thinking about who your quarterback is going to be. Now, just a couple of years removed from giving Ryan Tannehill $65 million. These things are relevant because if you're the New York Jets, it's the kind of thing you got to think about. If you've got the number 3 pick, but there's speculation that the Dolphins might grab a quarterback at number 6, then it elevates the level of importance from the New York Jets to grab a quarterback at that 3rd slot. That's why you moved up from 6 to 3. That's why you moved up. Maybe I meant 5 instead of 6 or whatever the case may be, but if you're the Jets, you're at number 3. And if somebody within your division is going to grab one of those quarterbacks, it might elevate the importance for you to make sure you grab that quarterback instead of allowing them to do so. And that's where things get tricky. And that's the kind of stuff that the New York Jets have to pay attention to. There is no way around this, ladies and gentlemen. This stuff is getting tight. And it can't be ignored. And somehow, some way, you're the New York Giants, you're the New York Jets, you're going to have to figure it out. If you're the Rams, you've already figured it out. If you're the Cleveland Browns, it's more important to you than anybody that it gets figured out. No matter what way you slice it, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're living with right here, right now. And I apologize for bringing up Miami. They're at number 11. Indianapolis is at number 6. But I'm just saying, these are the kind of things you got to think about if Miami's targeting a quarterback. If somebody within your conference is targeting another quarterback. If you're the New York Jets, you got to make sure you get it. All of that is stuff that's on our mind right now. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. One of the other things that took place was last night's basketball game with the Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Didn't I tell y'all? Didn't I tell y'all there was nothing to really be concerned about? I don't know how many times I got to explain this to people. Somehow, some way, y'all going to learn to listen to me. But if you are the Cleveland Browns, you got a lot to worry about. Let me assure you, the Toronto Raptors isn't one of those teams. I do not mean to be disrespectful in any way. I swear to you, I do not. But you cannot beat a LeBron James team when your best player is DeMar DeRozan. And it's not that DeMar DeRozan lacks talent, because he's a stud. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for him, his skill set, and what he brings to the table. My trepidation about DeMar DeRozan stems from one thing and one thing only. His size, the position that he plays, he doesn't have that strong of a perimeter shot. And if you don't have that, you're not beating LeBron James. I don't care what anybody says. They can slice it any way they want to. You're not beating LeBron James if you can't shoot the rock from long range. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan struggle come postseason time. And against LeBron and Cleveland, LeBron is their kryptonite. If Bradley Beal had a body like DeMar DeRozan, that height, that size, it would be more problematic for LeBron James. Because Bradley Beal can shoot. The problem is that DeMar DeRozan plays a similar position to LeBron, and when it's time, LeBron can clamp down on him. And I don't care what you're doing as a team, Toronto-wise, with this second unit, with what Masai Ujiri has built, along with Dwayne Casey coaching. It don't matter. It does not matter. In the end, what it comes down to, more than anything, is this reality. This team, this Toronto Raptors team, as formidable as they are, is tailor-made for LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Boston missed a big-time opportunity last night losing to Milwaukee. They play the Raptors tonight. Because the Raptors had lost and Boston had won, Boston would have been a game out in the East for the number 1 seed playing Toronto tonight. And that would have boded well for them. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. And because it did not work out that way, this is what you have. Toronto is the number 1, Boston is the number 2 seed, and that's probably the way that it will end. 888-SAY-ESPN, it's 888-729-3776. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to switch gears for a quick second here. Today is April 4th. It marks the 50th anniversary. It was 50 years to this day that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. In today's New York Daily News, I cannot emphasize enough what an absolute outstanding column Caron J. Phillips, I hope I'm pronouncing his first name right, it's spelled C-A-R-R-O-N, Caron J. Phillips. I read him all the time, but I've never heard his name pronounced, so I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. If I didn't and he's listening, my apologies. But in today's New York Daily News, on the 50th anniversary of MLK's assassination, remember him for who he was and not as a prop to support flawed agendas. That is the headline. Written, highlighting a column written by Caron J. Phillips in today's New York Daily News. The column is nothing short of sensational. It's an absolutely outstanding column written by this man. And I would encourage everyone, and I do mean everyone, to go and read it in today's New York Daily News. Mr. Phillips starts off the column writing, on this day 50 years ago, an unarmed black man was shot to death by a white man. And it happened today. You would probably scroll past his name on one of your social media platforms, and it would look like this, hashtag Martin Luther King Jr. But he went on talking about how certain things are hypocritical. How it's a slap in the face to one of the greatest spirits to ever walk this earth. And when you listen to some of the things that he said, particularly a quote, because this relates to the Colin Kaepernicks of the world and beyond. Not just to unarmed black men being shot, not just to violence that's getting perpetrated in the streets, not just to protests and things of that nature that are taking place before our very eyes. But there was one particular quote that was so powerful that I felt the need to read this to you all. He says in his column, while the I Have a Dream speech is thought to be King's most popular one, there's a section from an open letter he wrote a few months earlier called Letter from a Birmingham Jail that foreshadowed a foe that African Americans have been hampered by since slavery. And he called it the white moderate. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you're white, black, or beyond, listen to the breakdown of this quote. A letter from a Birmingham jail written by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it's a paragraph, and I'll read it to you now. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in this stride toward freedom is not the white citizen counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Think about that. Think about that long and hard. I had to take a look in the mirror and think about myself in a number of times. I talked about knowing the game, knowing when to play the game and when not to, thinking about Colin Kaepernick and some of the things that he did to derail or dilute his own arguments, along with those who support him in his position. I haven't changed my stance on a multitude of things one bit, but that quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his letter from a Birmingham jail certainly gave me cause to pause and to think about a lot of things, and more importantly, harness and harbor empathy and elevate my level of understanding for those who are a bit more dogged in their approach towards getting things done. On this particular day, on this very show, it was incredibly important for me to point that out. Letter from a Birmingham jail by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Printed in today's column of the New York Daily News by Karan J. Phillips. It's an absolute must read, and I applaud him for the job he did with this column today. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't touch that dial. I'm just getting started. Lots to talk about. NFL, NBA, and the 50th anniversary of the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. All of that and more up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I'm a one-trick pony, literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter when Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la, aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Got a few things to get into today. You heard what I had to say about the NFL. Giants and the Jets with the 2 and 3rd pick respectively. The Cleveland Browns with the 1st and 4th overall picks. Denver at number 5, Indianapolis at number 6, Miami looking to move up to get a quarterback. We talked about that. We talked about Donald and Rosen. We talked about LeBron and the Cavs going up against Toronto. We talked about powers in the East. Got stuff to get into in the Western Conference, and I'll save that for hour number 2 with the Warriors and the Rockets and everything else. I didn't even get into Canelo Alvarez backing out of the fight, knowing he's going to get suspended because of the Nevada State Athletic Commission's complaint against him after he tested positive twice in February. So the fight with Triple G and him is off for May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, but Triple G is going to fight somebody. And then, of course, Deontay Wilder, which I publicized yesterday right here on this radio show, willing to accept Anthony Joshua's challenge. Hopefully the promoters will not get in the way. Lots of stuff to think about as well. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to say this again, and I said this yesterday, and I want to say this again. Dante DiVincenzo, who burst onto the scene for the Villanova Wildcats Monday night. 31 points in 37 minutes off the bench. Most outstanding player, Final Four. He was absolutely sensational Monday night for the national championship game. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very, very clear. I am not some man that's trying to sit here and shove aside the notion that some kid, white or otherwise, is uttering an N-word out of their mouth with such a fluidity. But ladies and gentlemen, this kid is 21 years old. Somebody brought up some tweet of him singing some Meek Mill song from 7 years ago when he was 14. And on the night this man wins a national title, somebody's going to bring that up to him. See, it's moments like this, like I said on First Take this morning. My show First Take airs on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific. At some point in time, you got to ask yourself about your own humanity. What did you do when you were 14? And if you're going to be held accountable for it, should it be 7 years later on the night you win a national championship game? See, it's moments like this when people, just throw out generalities like the media. I don't blame them. Moments like this. I cannot tell you how irritated I am. I cannot tell you how irritating it is to me that somebody would do something like that. It really, really bothers me to do that to a kid. And I believe it's beyond cruel. I truly do. But that's just me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Ira in Staten Island, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's happening, Steve? What's going on?
How you doing? Long time no speak, buddy. Always great to talk to you. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Great show. Always a pleasure to listen to you. And,
Thank you.
It's so fascinating in New York with the Giants and Jets both, picking 2 and 3. And, I'm not sure what the Giants are going to do. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, but I do think somebody at number 2 will. I don't think it's going to be the Giants. But I believe.
So you think the Giants are going to trade down? You think the Giants are going to trade down? Okay.
Absolutely. Whether it's Denver, you mentioned Miami, and the Bills are dying to trade up. So I think somebody's going into that 2 spot. They're probably. I think the Browns are taking Allen. I think Donald's going number 2 to somebody. Even if it is the Giants, he's going number 2. And the Jets are, in my humble opinion, I think it's going to be Mayfield or Rosen. And you can make arguments either way. Hold
on, Ira. I don't know any bigger Jets fan than you. Give it to me straight. Who do you want them to take if you had a choice between those two?
I would take Rosen simply because with Mayfield, I feel, in my humble opinion, you got to tailor an offense around him to fit his best talent skills. With Rosen, he's a pro-style NFL quarterback. The concerns, the concussions, and so on and so forth, as hard as Jay Cutler, that's something you got to sit down in a room, spend a couple of days with this kid, and you got to evaluate what's in his heart. I think durability is a question with Rosen. I don't like his build. He worries me. He concerns me. I'm very, very concerned about Rosen when it comes to his durability, man. Once he gets hit by these NFL players, I think it's a concern, Ira. No, I agree with you. And this, I will say once again, if you look at him like his last couple of college games, and you look at some of the pictures of him when he was working out on his pro days and he had T-shirt on, he does look like he did bulk up a little. And I'm sure in a off, 1 year in a conditioning program in the NFL, I think they will build him up. But you're right, his durability is a concern. But I would, if it was my choice, I would take Rosen, unless my offensive coordinator sells me and say, listen, I got the perfect system I could build around for Mayfield.
Oh, I got that message, Ira, but what about Jim Morris' comments about Josh Rosen when he talked about he's an intellectual, he gets bored easy, it's going to be tough to zone him in and make him locked in on just football because he has a multitude of interests. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's essentially what Jim Mora Jr., the former coach at UCLA, had to say about Josh Rosen. That doesn't concern you at all?
Of course it concerns me, but look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady, and now, listen, he's a proven, maybe the best quarterback ever. But, he has other interests besides just football, too, and I'm sure a lot of guys do.
Not at the time. Not coming out of Michigan. I mean, of course, later on, after he was a Super Bowl champion, and then ultimately he married Giselle, we get that. But that was after he was locked in on football and became a champion.
Well, that's true. I get that. To me, basically, like I said, we began the conversation. I have to spend a day or two with Rosen, bring him into the facility, try to get inside his head, try to see if this guy is going to buy all into football, and that's going to be my decision. If I walk away, if I look in his eyes, and I have any hesitation whatsoever that he's not 100% in on football completely, then I got to take Mayfield. If I believe that Rosen is going to commit himself and be committed to football, then I take Rosen.
I got you. I got to run, Ira. I appreciate the call, buddy. Always great hearing from you. Call back anytime, and I'm sure you will as the draft approaches. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, I know there are several of you out there who had a bad night. You know why I know this? Because I used to be just like you. I didn't get great sleep because of snoring either. But that was before I tried the revolutionary device called Zeepa. Zeepa's a game changer. If you snore, you're not sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you're not getting the rest you need, and you're not facilitating success for yourself. If you want success, you got to be at your best. And Zeepa's the solution that helps you get that great sleep so you feel the best, your best, in the morning. And everyone who sleeps next to you gets the rest they need to feel great in the morning, too. Zeep is the only snoring solution of its kind. If you snore, you need to get it. I want you to go to ZYPPAH.com. Easy to remember because Zeep is happy Z spelled backwards. Go to Zeepa.com right now, get a Zeepa, and tell everybody you know to get a Zeepa as well. Remember, it's ZYPPAH. That's Zeepa.com. Get the great sleep you need and the great sleep you deserve. More to come with Stephen A. Going to continue to get into this NFL draft. I told you what LeBron was going to do to the Raptors, and he did it. Does that mean Cleveland's a lock to come out of the East? Plus, Dante DiVincenzo, most outstanding player in the Final Four, particularly the national championship game. In the news for other wrong reasons. I think it's incredibly unfair. What do you think? All that and more up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
47 minutes past hour number one. Back in the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. Back to the phones we go at 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. I don't see it up on my board. I wish they put my phone. I don't know why these people always messing with me, making me ask stuff twice. See, your producer sometimes can try to sabotage you. You know, John got upset. You know what I'm saying? Because the wife chewed him out about an hour ago over something. So he's upset. He ain't on his game. Nuno, I still can't tell whether he's Mexican or Portuguese. This dude's out there doing his own thing. And then when he gets upset at me, he starts speaking in a different language that I can't understand. So who knows what he's doing? And Kat's pastor, let's just say she's special. She's special. In a good or bad way, depending on whether or not John or Nuno gets on her nerves. But I digress. Let me get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Mike in Denver. Holla at me, bro. What's up?
What's going on, man? I want to get right to it.
Let's go.
I want to talk about. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to talk about Cleveland Cavaliers and Toronto first. Let all your listeners know. Be seconds to me to hear from you the first one. They can't do nothing with Cleveland and LeBron, man. Because like you say, DeMar DeRozan behind the eight ball, man, messing around with LeBron James. That's number one. Serge Ibaka ain't no answer for him. So they're gonna beat Toronto again in 5 or 6 games. It ain't going 7, that's for sure. So they'll be advancing over Toronto. Then I want to get into the NFL draft. It's getting real interesting, man. Like you said, I'm interested. I'm going to be more focused on this draft than I ever been to see how all this play around with the new reports coming up with this quarterback and that quarterback. And then thirdly, how we started this relationship, my man RG3 back in the league with the Baltimore Ravens. What's your take on all that?
Well, let me tell you something. I don't have a problem with RG3. Listen, I know the first thing that we think about. RG3's back in the league. What about Colin Kaepernick? Because Colin Kaepernick supposedly is the best quarterback. But let's be clear about something here. Colin Kaepernick once upon a time was the best quarterback. He went to a Super Bowl, went to the playoffs, looked absolutely sensational. But RG3, he struggled due to injury. And obviously, he was playing for a coach in Mike Shanahan that didn't particularly want him in Washington to begin with. And then when he moved on, where did he go? He went to Cleveland. So we got to remember that RG3 is only about 27, 28 years of age. He still has some time left in him as well. And who knows whether or not he's learned from the error of his ways. Give him a chance. I'm happy Baltimore picked him up because I certainly ain't the biggest fan in the world of Joe Flacco, who some would joke and call Joe Fluco. I'm certainly not the biggest fan in the world of him. So I don't know, but I appreciate the call, Mike, and I appreciate the question. Thank you so much. Let's go to William in Alaska. You're live at Stephen A. What's up, William? How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. Hey,
I'm getting calls from all over the world. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. What about the Cleveland Browns trading for Odell Beckham with and giving up their fourth pick? They've got the money.
Well, I don't think that would be enough for Odell Beckham Jr. The Giants are reportedly asking for 2 first-round picks, knowing the likelihood is that they're not going to get that, but that's what they're asking for.
Yeah, that's true. I know Cleveland's got first and fourth, but they could give her their fourth round, and that would give the Giants quarterback and running back are 2 good choices anyway.
Yeah, but you're not, listen, it's going to take 2 first-round picks to get Odell Beckham Jr., and I'm not sure I'm doing that to get a wide receiver. That's the issue. But I appreciate the call, William. Thank you so much. Keep the love coming, man. Thank you. Albert in Palm Springs, you're live at Stephen A. Real quick. Go ahead, Albert.
Hey, Stephen A., quick question.
Yes, sir.
Do you see the Clippers sneaking into the playoffs and the Doc Rivers job? The Doc Rivers job.
First of all, I've been on the record. I've been on the record since the beginning of this year believing this would be Doc Rivers' last year in Los Angeles as head coach of the Clippers. I'm not saying the man deserves to be fired or anything like that, but the flip side is that there have been too many changes. Doc Rivers had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, never got to a conference finals. Their best chance was when they were up 3-2 on Houston, had a 19-point lead in Game 6 of the Western Conference semis 3 years ago or so, and Houston came back and blitzed them like on a 49-9 run and then closed them out in Game 7. And that was that. That was their best opportunity. It was before the Golden State Warriors had actually learned how to win. And that was the prime opportunity. That was the Clippers' moment as far as I'm concerned. From that point forward, they've never had a chance. And so if you're Doc Rivers, who I think has done a good job this year, 42-36 record with the slew of injuries, along with the departure of Chris Paul and ultimately Blake Griffin, I don't think there's any denying that he's done a good job. The problem is that clearly a new vision is in place. It's being orchestrated by the consultant extraordinaire that is Jerry West, one of the great basketball minds the game has ever seen. And I personally believe that Jerry West has his sights on a new vision that doesn't include Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers knows it. Doc Rivers is looking to move on. And I think ultimately you'll see the parting of the ways. We don't know that that's going to happen. But if I had to guess, that would be my guess. I appreciate the call, Albert. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Hour number 2, Todd McShay, college football analyst and NFL draft expert extraordinaire. He will be on the show with us. Plus, we'll get into what transpired in the Western Conference. Plus, we'll get into a little boxing. The list goes on and on. It's Stephen A. in the house. What more do I need to say other than hour number 2 up next?
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. This is Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app. Join and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. My honor and privilege to have my next guest on the show. College football analyst, NFL draft analyst, co-host of the First Draft podcast with Mel Kiper Jr. Who else am I talking about other than the great Todd McShay? Always an honor and privilege to have my man Todd McShay on the line with yours truly right now. Let me twist this up, Todd. Let me twist this up for you a little bit, okay? Because I know you get a cut to who's going number 1, who's going number 2, et cetera, et cetera. I got this on my mind right now. Let me twist this up a little bit. As the NFL draft approaches, if the New York Giants had the number 1 pick instead of the number 2 pick, who would they take in your estimation?
I've heard a little bit of both.
what I'm told is that Sam Darnold would likely be the pick at that number one spot. But again, I don't know who to trust at this point in the process. And I don't think for the vast majority of teams, I don't think they've made a final decision on guys. Like, I think the Browns, all their scouts put in their information. They have draft meetings. They kind of put players in general areas they want, and then they revisit it. And then John Dorsey, the GM, is going to go sit down and he's going to look at more of the tape and take in all the information, and as good leaders do, make a decision with one or two of the top people in his organization, and that will be it. And it'll be late in the process. So to say that they would take Darnold and not take Allen if Darnold goes number one, or not take Rosen if Darnold goes number one, I can't say that's definitive. I've heard some of that speculation, but at the end of the day, I think I would personally take a quarterback here, because I'm going to assume as a GM, we're not picking at 2 anymore. We're going to keep getting better. And when am I going to have a chance to draft one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this class, a player at that level? So I would have a hard time passing on a quarterback, but if you're convinced you get 3 more good years out of Eli, then if you're not going to trade out of number 2, and I think Saquon Barkley makes an awful lot of sense, and pair him up in that same backfield with Manning.
Todd McShay, correct me if I'm wrong. Your mock draft has Sam Darnold going number 1 overall to Cleveland, whereas Mel Kiper Jr. had Josh Allen out of Wyoming going number 1. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How big of a gap is it between these quarterbacks? Because that's been the struggle for me. It's one thing to talk about Darnold, and you've been very, very consistent about him. You've liked him from weeks ago. But I got to tell you, listening to so many NFL aficionados, you've got Darnold, you've got Rosen, you've got Mayfield, you've got Allen. And folks act like it's not that big of a difference between the 4. So if you're Cleveland and you've got the 1st and the 4th overall pick, why is it that you couldn't take a Saquon Barkley number 1 overall and then grab one of those 4 quarterbacks at number 4? What would be the problem with that thinking, Todd McShay?
Well, just for me personally, and it's, everyone has their own opinion on these quarterbacks, but I think Sam Darnold, I don't want to say there's a huge gap between Darnold and then Allen and Rosen would be kind of just a little bit below in my opinion, and then probably another little step down before Mayfield. But I look at Sam Darnold and I see a quarterback who is the most complete of this group and can create and is a magician in the pocket and can throw it when his feet aren't right, when he's off balance, and can make plays. And he's been durable. He has no character concerns, no questions about coachability and leadership and all this his stuff we've heard with Mayfield and Rosen. No, like I said, no durability concerns like you have with Rosen and a little bit with Josh Allen. And he's played at the highest level. He's been 20-4 as a starter without a great competition around him. And to me, if you're Cleveland and you have gone about 20 years without the guy at that position, I'm going to take the guy that I believe in the most here. And then if Barkley's there at 4, that's great. If not, I'm going to get an awesome guard, or I'm going to get an awesome pass rusher in Bradley Chubb to go opposite Myles Garrett and feel great about it. And there's even speculation that Cleveland could take 2 quarterbacks in this draft.
And what do you think about that, Todd? What do you think about that? I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever. What about you?
It sounds ridiculous when you first think of it, but I'll remind everyone about RG3 and Kirk Cousins and how ridiculous everyone thought Washington was for taking in the 3rd round Kirk Cousins. And it turns out, just like in most cases with the first-round quarterbacks, it's a 50-50 proposition at best. At best, Stephen A. And so if you're dying for a quarterback, I'm not saying I would do this, and I'm not saying I would endorse it, but it's not as insane as it initially sounds when someone says that. So, there's something to it, because if you're going to hit on one, great. And the other part, too, is if you had 2 quarterbacks, you hit on one, and the other guy just wasn't playing as well as the guy who won the job, then it's collateral, and you can trade. And we've seen how much collateral it can be for a young quarterback.
Todd, let me play the devil's advocate with that, Todd, and I know you're not endorsing this, so let me be very clear about this, but let me throw this at you. It'd be one thing when you take RG3 number 2 overall and thank goodness he seems to have a job. Baltimore signed him to a 1-year deal, but that's a story for another day. But you took RG3 with the number 2 overall pick. If you were Washington years ago, you took Kirk Cousins in the 3rd round. Kirk Cousins could definitely be comfortable playing the backer role and waiting his turn because he was a 3rd round pick compared to the number 2 overall pick. But if you've got a 1st and a 4th overall pick, both of them are expecting to play And you can't play two quarterbacks like that, which means you will have wasted one of your top 4 picks. That would be my thinking. Wouldn't that be yours?
I agree. I mean, there's one theory. You just throw 2 alpha dogs in the cage and see what happens. See who competes harder and wins the job. The other is, though, that are you stealing reps from one of them and an opportunity to learn more? So, I think the perfect scenario for Cleveland is take the quarterback at 1, and then you're going to get one of the 3 best players, elite players in this draft in Saquon Barkley, Quentin Nelson at the guard position, or Bradley Chubb at defensive end, and you still have 3 more picks in the second round to go maybe draft if you want a Mason Rudolph or another quarterback and address some other positions. So they're in great shape to turn things around really quickly if they handle this well and they hit on even 3 out of their, or 3 or 4 out of their 5 picks in the first 2 rounds.
Folks, we're talking to Todd McShay right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. There were folks out there once upon a time that thought Darnold and Rosen was on the same level. You look at Mel Kiper Jr., he talked about how Rosen outplayed Darnold when UCLA went up against USC. What about you? What are your thoughts in terms of Rosen at number 3 for the New York Jets or a Baker Mayfield? Looking at what the New York Jets need, looking at the market that they play in, how do you look at, so assuming Darnold's gone, how do you look at Rosen compared to a Mayfield?
I'm still struggling with Rosen and Allen, to be honest with you. I think it's Rosen and Allen, and they're very different quarterbacks. With one guy, in Allen, you're getting so much upside. You're getting the big arm. You're getting potentially Ben Roethlisberger. And if you can get Roethlisberger and develop him into that, then great. But there's also concern that, he doesn't quite process things. He gets stuck on his first read, inconsistent with the accuracy, whereas Rosen, he doesn't have the big arm. He's got adequate arm strength. He doesn't have the mobility that you see from Allen. But what he has is what translates to the NFL, and that's just going through his progressions quickly. He processes information in a flash. He anticipates throws. And if you have anything around Josh Rosen, he's going to come in and he's going to have success right away.
Todd McShay right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What does that mean for Saquon Barkley? Because the way you guys sound, whether it's Darnold, whether it's Nelson, whether it's an Allen or a Mayfield, is Saquon Barkley surefire to be a top 3 pick, or could he end up falling in this draft, Todd McShay?
I will be absolutely blown away if we get to pick 5 and Barkley's still on the board. But with that said, if the Giants trade out or take a quarterback at 2, then all of it just comes down to that pick at 4. But I still don't see how, if you're the Cleveland Browns, I know we're talking about 2 quarterbacks, but I don't see how, if you're the Cleveland Browns and you get, you're winning the lottery, Stephen A. You're getting just a ticket handed to you. You got Sam Darnold and you have the best player in this draft. You've got your backfield for a decade. Walk away from the table. Walk away. It's so simple to me if that's how it plays out.
How come we haven't heard more about Lamar Jackson, a Heisman Trophy winner who's electric with his legs, although he's slight of frame and what have you? And there are people like Booger McFarland, for example, who are saying that he should be a wide receiver. And we know what Bill Polian has been on the record saying about that. What are you hearing about Lamar Jackson, and what are you hearing ultimately may end up happening to him?
Lamar Jackson needs a team to go all in on him. And if you're going to do that, you have to go all in on him with a backup that is of a high level and has mobility. Because by going all in, you got to change and really center your offense around what he does well, which is the mobility. But if you do that, then with that slight frame that he has, it's going to be really hard to stay healthy. Look at Cam Newton. He struggles to get through seasons healthy, and he's 255 pounds. Lamar's actual playing weight is probably 210 pounds. So I think that's kind of the big struggle with him, and then figuring out a team that really wants to go all in and do it the right way, build everything around how he processes information, how he plays the game, a little bit like Bill O'Brien did in Houston last year with Deshaun Watson, because ultimately you got to go all in on this guy because he's the most electrifying player in college football the last 2 years when the ball's in his hands. And I don't know if he can play a lick of wide receiver. I don't know if he can catch. I don't know if he can separate and run. So I know he can play quarterback. I'm bringing him in, and I'm going to play him at quarterback, but I've got to do it where I'm not forcing him on the field immediately, And I've got to do it with a creative offensive mind, and I've got to do it with the right personnel backing him up, because I have to assume he's going to miss time each and every year because of that frame.
Todd McShay, always appreciate the great work. Keep it up, buddy. You know I can't wait to see you as this draft approaches. Thanks so much, my man.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show, brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. Credit Karma. Get knowing. That was the great Todd McShay, NFL draft analyst extraordinaire, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. And I get his points on everything. The one thing that threw me off was Lamar Jackson. I don't, when you talk about Lamar Jackson out of Louisville, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not of that mindset. You know what? Okay, draft him, but have a real quality backup guy. And, you know, you draft him, he's the guy, and you're making sure that you got the right support system around him, whatever the case may be. Look, if he ain't ready, he ain't ready. Let him be the backup. But give him a chance to be a quarterback before you want to delegate him to being a wide receiver. He had, in today's NFL, this ain't the 70s. In today's NFL, where the ability to run with the football is incredibly important, and being that dual threat is incredibly important, give him an opportunity to showcase what he can do at the quarterback position. And then if that's not the case, okay, then we got another Terrell Pryor on our hands, who was a quarterback in college at Ohio State, but clearly better as a wide receiver on the NFL level. But give him a chance. I don't think Lamar Jackson is one of those individuals that shouldn't be given the opportunity to showcase what he can do. I think it's very, very important to give him that opportunity, to let him showcase what he's about, what he can do, what he brings to the table, etc. That would just be my thinking. That's just where I'm at with it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Doug in New Jersey, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. My name is Doug Sittel, S-I-T-T-E-L, on Google. I'm calling from Trenton Hospital.
Why would I need to know your last name and particularly how it's spelled for a radio show? Why would that be important? Hello? Oh, he's not listening? Well, Doug, Doug, calm down. Doug, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just keep talking because remember, it's a slight delay. And the audience has to make sure they hear you, so they didn't hear a damn thing you just said. So you got to listen to me. You're communicating with me, okay? You're not just talking. You're calling to the Stephen A. Smith Show. You got to talk to me, okay?
Right.
All right. Now what? Now, you felt the need to say your last name. Why?
I am calling from Trenton Hospital, and I had to record a judge say, look, if anybody finds out about the tapes you have on me, I'm going to order a psych exam after I false arrest you, or I'm going to have to flee to Brazil. And my YouTube uploads number 8 at 2640, and the guy says, and she runs the hospital.
What is this about? What is this about? I don't know what you're talking about, Doug. You lost me. It's a sports show. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I really don't. I apologize for hanging up, but I got listeners to cater to, and you're not making any sense. You got to try again later. All right? Let's go to Raleigh in Indiana. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Raleigh. What's up?
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A?
I'm good. Talk to me, man.
All right. I'm just a casual fan, so I don't want you to beat me up. But I just wanted to know, why won't Pittsburgh find a quarterback to back up Ben Roethlisberger?
What do you mean beat you up? What do you mean beat you up? I'm right with you.
Well, I've heard you.
They desperately need a quarterback.
Heard you tell some callers, I think, frankly, that was a stupid call. So I don't want you to.
If it's a stupid call, I'm going to call it a stupid call, but this is not stupid. I'm right with you. Listen, Big Ben Roethlisberger was talking about retiring, man.
Right.
I mean, he talking about he didn't want to play no more.
Yeah, he's flaky now, and they're already talking about running the coach out on the rail already, so why won't they take a quarterback like San Francisco did or Green Bay did with Aaron Rodgers and Steve Young?
Well, we got to look at what's available out there. We've only really heard about 5 quarterbacks. We've heard about the Josh Allens, the Josh Rosens, the Sam Darnolds, the Baker Mayfields, and then on the outside looking in as a Lamar Jackson. We've heard about that. We haven't really heard about anybody else at the quarterback position. The Steelers got the 28th overall pick in the first round of the NFL draft, so we got to wonder what they're going to bring to the table. They've got the 60th pick in the second round as well, and so we got to look at it from that perspective. Obviously, you can find a diamond in the rough. You can find you can find lightning in the bottle, I guess. I understand how that goes, but right now, when you got the 28th overall pick, it's pretty hard to really zero in on a quarterback because any quarterback worth its salt it's believed they would be gone by then. But then again, there's plenty of successful quarterbacks that have been picked in the second round, the third round, and beyond.
Exactly. So I'm wondering why not the guy out of Louisville, Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, because he probably will be gone by the number one. Number two, and more importantly, one would argue, since Big Bill Roethlisberger has stated he's hell-bent on coming back and his zest for football has returned, I think the primary objective for the Steelers would be addressing their secondary. Because their secondary is so suspect. And that's what we got to be real about here, man. We got to be real about that, Raleigh. The Steelers secondary flat out stinks.
Yeah.
There's no way around this.
That's very true.
You
one more question, one basketball question.
Go ahead.
Why is it that LeBron James is so disliked? And this young man has been nothing but a statesman since he's left high school. When he left high school, he came under scrutiny. Why did his mother buy him a Hummer?
Hold it. Where's your justification for him being disliked? He might be scrutinized, but I think that LeBron is an iconic figure for a reason. The world over, he's highly respected. It's just that people recognize that he's lost 5 NBA finals.
That's where I'm going. Okay, but he's gone to 5. But he's gone to 5. I mean, you know how hard it is to get the 5 NBA finals?
No. Do you? Did you play the NBA?
No.
Exactly. So in other words, what I'm trying to say to you is don't get caught up in that, Riley. The bottom line is this. LeBron James is a great statesman. He's a phenomenal basketball ambassador. He's an incredible role model. Good man, good father, good husband. All of that other stuff is true, okay? As far as we know. What's wrong with us judging him about basketball? He's universally recognized as the greatest player in the world. We religiously say that. What's wrong with then highlighting, but you 3-5 in the NBA Finals? What's wrong with that? He does play this profession. He don't play in the dark. He plays in front of all of us. What's wrong with that?
When he won the finals against Steph Curry and them boys.
Well, did anybody ignore it? Did anybody ignore that, Riley, when he won? When he won, did we not praise him for winning?
No. You guys said that the only reason he won was because the one guy got hurt.
See, first of all, I said that, and I stand by that. It doesn't take away from the greatness of LeBron. What I said was the Cleveland Cavaliers was given a stimulus package by Adam Silver in the NBA because Cleveland was down 2-1. Lost game 4 on their home court in Cleveland, going back to the Oracle for a game 5, and then Draymond Green got suspended. That's what I said. There wasn't supposed to be a game 6 or 7. They had the momentum, and they had lost because they had lost game 4 in Cleveland. That's not disrespecting. That's not. Hold on. That's not disrespecting LeBron. You want to wear pom-poms, you better call another show. I'm going to call it like it is. When he deserves credit, I'll give it to him. When he doesn't, I won't. LeBron is a 3-time champion. He deserves credit for that. He's lost 5 NBA finals. I've even taken away a couple of finals losses for him. He wasn't supposed to beat San Antonio the first time around. I don't even hold that against him. But you ain't going to call up here and act like he's a victim because people are pointing out of all the great things we point out about him. When we highlight the fact that he lost in the NBA finals, we're killing him. You ain't getting away with that, Raleigh. Call another station. Have a nice day. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes. You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes. Set up screen of questions based on your job requirements. Then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll continue talking about some NBA stuff. I got to get into something that I saw last night with the OKC Thunder against the Golden State Warriors. I also got to get a little bit into Triple G. His fight with Canelo Alvarez being canceled for Cinco de Mayo because Canelo Alvarez obviously had issues. The Nevada State Athletic Commission filed a complaint against him. He tested positive twice in February. Bad meat in Mexico, he said, contaminated his blood and ultimately enabled him to test positive for PEDs, et cetera, et cetera. In the end, how good or bad is this for boxing? Anthony Joshua challenging Deontay Wilder after his 12-round decision win Saturday night in the UK. Deontay Wilder has gladly accepted. The only thing standing in the way of the promoters. What about that? Plus, the Houston Rockets. I know there's a lot of people that think they can beat the Golden State Warriors. What I find hard to believe is that there are people who are actually saying they deserve to be the favorites. All that plus some NFL draft stuff coming up as the show continues right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Dante DiVincenzo has made himself some money. Basically, that would be a way of encouraging him to come out in the draft and get that money. The interesting part about it is that if he comes back to school and Jalen Brunson and Bridges leave for the NBA, I mean, the show is going to be Dante DiVincenzo's. He's going to be the man and probably be a lottery pick after that. Continues this kind of play that he's been putting forth. That's one thing to point to. The other thing to point to is this. One of the things you got to think about, because it makes me think about Josh Rosen and the Jets. Josh Rosen out of the UCLA who could potentially land with a number 3 spot at the Jets. Folks talk about his intellect, his intelligence. I think his grandparents are the founders of Walmart or something. I don't know what it is. But I will tell you he's well-to-do. Affluency has been attached to his lifestyle. So because of that, one would argue that there's no level of urgency because no matter what, he's going to be just fine. That's what they'll say. And I guess my response to that would be, okay, so should you take him with the number 3 overall pick if there's a question about his level of urgency? It's all an interesting point to take. No question. 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to, let's see here. Let's go to LJ in Houston. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's going on, Stephen A? I got a couple questions for you, man.
Go ahead.
A couple months ago, you said that the rumors was coming out that LeBron could possibly sign with the Rockets, and you said they were either going to get one or the other, LeBron or DeAndre. Do you still believe that theory?
DeAndre Jordan? Yes. I think that if DeAndre Jordan had his druthers, he'd end up in Houston. I don't know why they would need him with Clint Capella playing the way that he's playing. But nevertheless, that's what I heard.
Okay. Well, that's a good theory because I'm hoping we get one or the other.
No theory. I'm not engaging in theories. If I was engaging in a theory, I'd say so. I'm just telling you what they said. Whether it's true or not remains to be seen. I'm not a beat writer on the job, looking for who's getting traded where every single day. I host a television and a national radio show. So I'm not on it the way Wojnarowski and others are on it. I used to do that. Very, very successful at doing it for 15 years. But I've graduated from that point years ago. So I don't have to pursue those stories like that. But that's what I've heard.
Okay. Well, let me throw something else out to you. I got my first team All-NBA. I want to see if you agree with it. Damian Lillard, James Harden, LeBron, Greek Freak, Anthony Davis. selection.
You said LeBron, Greek Freak, Anthony Davis, Lillard, and James Harden?
And yes.
Okay, I wouldn't dispute that. Here's the only reason why. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant have missed games.
Yes. Exactly.
Steph Curry has missed more games. I would sit up there and tell you that I'm inclined to put Kevin Durant ahead of the Greek Freak, but he's missed his share of games as well. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't think your list can be argued with. I think your list is viable, but it's not based on who's the best or based on talent. It's based on that plus availability. And those guys that you have on a list have been vastly more available than the other guys. So I would give you that.
Awesome. That's all I wanted to know, Stephen A. You have a good day.
You do the same. Let's go to Pat in St. Louis. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Pat.
Thanks for taking my call. I'm glad this Draymond Green thing was brought up again. Now, Stephen, let me get this off first. This what surprises me about you, the way you say you're a Rough Rider and you just come straight, no nonsense. I understand that he got thrown out of Game 4. I was suspended for Game 5. I understand that. But they had Game 5 at home.
Pause. Let me alert my audience to what you're talking about. You're talking about to a couple of years ago when Cleveland overcame a 3-1 deficit and beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals for LeBron to capture a championship for the city of Cleveland for the first time in 52 years. They beat the 73-9 Golden State Warriors after Draymond Green had got suspended for Game 5, even though he came back for Game 6 and Game 7. That's what you're talking about. Now go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thanks for clearing that up. So that's my whole point is that, again, we don't give LeBron James a pass. We just don't. And that's okay. Okay, he's got 5 losses under his belt, and that's okay. But my bottom line is, you got it, and I'm going to say it like you would say it. 73-9, the best record in the history of the game. You get Draymond Green back for Game 6, and now you're at home. Game 7, the biggest game of the year, close it out, full roster, and you don't win. As you would say, that's blasphemous. You got to get it done, and the Golden State Warriors did.
Let me respond to you, Pat. Let me respond to you while I have you on the line. LeBron James, remember, they lost the first 2 games. First of all, when they lost years ago, remember the year before when they had lost that series to Golden State? Huh, Pat?
4 and 6, right.
Right. Did anybody blame LeBron then? Nobody blamed him. He didn't have Kyrie. He didn't have Kyrie, and he didn't have Kevin Love. And
a little bit of a pass, not a whole lot still, because we still count it.
No. You can't say a little bit, because there were people that were talking about he was like Jerry West. He deserved the MVP of the finals, even though they had lost, because that's how fantastic he was. We understood that. The next year, you weren't just down 2-0 by losing to Golden State at the Oracle. You came back, you win Game 3, but you lose Game 4 in Cleveland. So the momentum is in Golden State's favor, and they're about to repeat and win this series 4-1, which was good for nobody. It wasn't good for the league, wasn't good for ratings, wasn't good for anything. Okay? And then Adam Silver and the league office gives the LeBron and Cleveland a stimulus package. They suspend Draymond Green. The game he suspended, Bogut, your rim protector, along with Iguodala, your 6th man, both get hurt. Both of them get hurt. Game 6, they're hobbled, can barely play. Game 7, Bogut doesn't play. Iguodala's hobbled. Steph Curry had been hobbled the whole time. So I look at all of that. It ain't just about Draymond Green getting suspended for Game 5. It's what happened in Game 5 when he was out. And that's what I think you're ignoring.
Was in Cleveland, and LeBron James lost Game 7 in Cleveland, 73-9, and they were still gimpy, but still they were there. Would we give LeBron James a pass? Now, be real, man.
No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. We definitely wouldn't. But you know why we wouldn't? Because he's the best in the world. And nobody was saying any of that about Golden State. They were saying that about them collectively, but nobody was calling them the best in the world.
I hear you.
And that's the difference. That's my position, but I appreciate the call, and I appreciate the debate. Thank you very, very much. It's much appreciated. Let's go to Art in Houston. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, man.
Hey, how you doing, Stephen A.? It was very nice words. Very nice monologue you did in the opening about Dr. King. That was very nice. Well said. what I wanted to ask you is how bad do you think it's going to hurt Canelo's reputation with him withdrawing from this fight?
I think it's going to hurt him to some degree because he's going to be watched. No question about it. But you want me to tell you what I think will resurrect it? If he subjects himself to the appropriate level of testing, he passed all the requisite tests, and then goes in and knocks out Triple G once they fight in September or beyond. That would offset the suspension. And you also got to remember something. He took a substance, he attributed it to bad meat. It's entirely different than Antonio Margarito years ago when he had his tape hardened like a cast, and he had fought against Sugar Shane, and people believed that he did the same thing when he beat up Miguel Cotto, that he had cheated. That's the kind of stuff that's criminal. To me, Margarito should have been arrested because of that. In the case of Canelo Alvarez, you know what? Listen, it depends on how much of a sample, he tested positive for or whatever, but this is not a good look for him. But if he avenges the situation by coming back clean and knocking out Triple G, I think that would offset everything.
That is true. Winning makes people have a short memory. The second thing I want to talk to you about, I know it's early in the season, but do you still think your Yankees are ready for the Astros?
No. Astros are the team to beat, man. They're the reigning defending world champions, and they look better than everybody already. I'm actually scared of them. I ain't gonna lie to you. They're awesome. I don't like it one bit because they're awesome. Not because I don't love the team, but because I love my Yankees. And by the way, Correa, incredible decision making. He's the guy that proposed after the World Series last year, right? So he proposed to? Incredible decision making. Incredible. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean
it! You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Back to the calls we go. Right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio. Let's get to it. Will y'all put my calls up on the board, please? Oh, my goodness. I tell you something right now. I'm trying to tell you right now, my producers are messing with me. They're messing with me on purpose. That's what they're doing. That's what my accusation is. Mike in Delaware, talk to me. You're live with Stephen A.
Stephen A. I just wanted to call in. I happened to be one of Dante DiVincenzo's middle school coaches when he played grade school basketball for Corpus Christi in Wilmington, Delaware. I just wanted to call in. He actually played with our older son, who was a year younger than Dante at the time. And I just wanted to comment what a great kid he was, one of the easiest kids on the planet to coach. He was like actually having another coach on the floor. And the remarkable thing about him was, as talented as he was clearly the best player in CYM and, frankly, probably the best sixth grader in the state of Delaware. The great thing was he shared the ball. He played the game the way it was supposed to be played, even at that age. His basketball IQ was way off the charts. We could have probably put the ball in his hands every game and just said, Dante, go win one for us. And that wasn't the way he wanted to play. He wanted to play the game the way it was meant to be played, even at a young age. And just a remarkably nice kid. I see him around town every now and then when he's on break from Villanova, and the first thing he does is give me a big hug and say, hey, Coach, how you doing?
Mike,
how's Mike?
Mike, let me interrupt you. I appreciate your comments about Dante DiVincenzo, but you don't have to call up to this show to defend him. The man, listen, he is an outstanding player. He played sensational basketball, and I know that he's in the news for other reasons right now, but I don't want to hear that garbage from other people. The kid was 14 years old, spewing rap lyrics, and for him to even be asked about that, and for for anything other than his outstanding performance in the national championship game Monday night to be any kind of a story is an absolute travesty and incredibly unfair to him or any young man for that matter that's in that kind of position where something that transpired 7 years ago when he was 14 years old, spewing rap lyrics from a Meek Mill album is utterly ridiculous, sir. So I appreciate your comments. I truly do, Mike, but I want you to know it's unnecessary in this particular situation. I congratulate the kid, and I wish him nothing but a prosperous future. Okay?
So I just felt like I wanted to call in and say that he was, at the youngest of ages, he was a great kid, very respectful.
I understand, and I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to do it, but it shouldn't be necessary. We should be praising this kid for how he performed Monday night, and that should be the story. Thank you so much for the call. Let's go to Chris in Missouri. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, first-time caller. I was just wondering, this whole draft has been about the quarterbacks. Why has Mason Rudolph been left out of this discussion?
I don't know. They haven't been saying a lot about him. They haven't been. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I wish I did. I haven't seen much of him, so the only thing I can surmise is that they don't think that much of him. Why? Do you think a lot of him?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to be a little bit biased. I'm an Oklahoma State fan, but I've watched him for 4 years. He's been very consistent. He led the league in passing last year. I think he's been hurt one time out of those 4 years. He has arguably the best deep ball, I think, out of all the quarterbacks. He's got a big NFL-type frame, and every time we hear about these quarterbacks, I'm a little bit hurt about it.
He completed 65% of his passes, threw for nearly 5,000 yards last season, 37 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. You might have a point there. He's 6'5", 230. That's an NFL body for a quarterback. You might have a point. I got to ask Todd McShay and Mel Kiper Jr. about that one. I got to ask him, Chris, okay? Thanks a lot. Bernard in Detroit, real quick. You're live with Stephen A. You got about 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., I just had a question about the NFL draft. I want to know what you thought. I think that the Lions are sitting on the 20th pick right now. I think they need to trade up to get Barkley. We haven't had a 100-yard rushing game.
I agree with that, but what you going to do? How you going to pull that off? What you going to move to get him? You know what I'm saying? Amir Abdullah? What you going to do? Theo Riddick? Who's going to move? Who's going to allow you to move up to get Saquon Barkley for the pieces that you have? What do you have to give real quick?
The front office, I'm not sure. They need to make it happen. They already let go Eric Ebron. Barkley can catch in the backfield. That solves a couple problems right there.
Honestly speaking, I don't think you have enough to move up to get Saquon Barkley. That's the issue. You got to find another running back. Saquon Barkley's big time. Of course y'all could utilize him. Of course you need a running back behind Matthew Stafford. But in the end, what it comes down to, Bernard, is that I don't believe you have enough to move up. Cleveland and New England are the two teams in position, versatile enough to make things happen because of the picks that they have available to them. Nobody has said that about the Detroit Lions, and I don't believe it to be true. And by the way, you just hired a defensive guy to be your head coach. So I don't even know if you're thinking the way you're supposed to be thinking. But I'll talk to y'all later. I'm signing off for now. This is Stephen A. signing off. Peace and love, everybody. Talk to you.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.